So the structure for this afternoon is slightly different for this morning. We're going to kick off first with some lightning talks. It's one of the most valuable things I think we do here in the Cambridge Library Conference every year. Hear from members of our own community and the practice projects and events and things that they've been involved with. This year we've done it slightly differently. We split the lightning talks into two parts, partly to give at least half of those people speaking some of the afternoon off, fearing having to speak right at the end of the day. And apologies for those who are in the second round of speakers, but the first lot get off easily. Also, we're going to split that up with another round of parallel talks, which I'm sure will be as interesting and inspiring as the morning session was. We will leave here to the parallel talks. We'll then return here for the final lightning talks and a very brief wrap-up. Following that, we will be heading next door to Brown's. I will be at the front, running to get first in the queue, but you are all very welcome to come and join us there for a drink to celebrate the day afterwards.
I'll go away now.
You can go away now.
It's your bit.
So, it's now going to be our lightning talk session. So, it's my very great pleasure to welcome up to the stage first Veronica from the Medical Library, who is going to be talking to us this afternoon about Advent calendars, which is almost perfect timing.
Thanks very much. So, yes, I'm going to be talking today about specific Advent calendar that we put together at the Medical Library, a Systematic Reviews Advent calendar. So, not sure I'm going to need to tell everyone in the room about what systematic reviews are, but just to fill you in, they're a very specific type of literature review. They're particularly used in medicine, but they're used in other academic fields as well. And the key element of them is that they are very transparent, very rigorous, and very thorough, and considered to be the gold standard of medical evidence. As you can imagine, in a medical library, we offer a lot of training and support in this, as well as extensive resources on our website. But unfortunately, this is not always noticed by users. How do we reach our users? The solution: an online Advent calendar which walked users through systematic reviews resources as well as further support. And most sections linked back to training and support offered by the Medical Library. I have to say, this was not an entirely original idea. I came across the sort of idea of using this in 2016, a scholarly communication Advent calendar put together by my colleague Claire Sewell at the Office of Scholarly Communication. And I did ask her for advice. Any mistakes? My own, not due to Claire. And the result was this calendar. So it was a WordPress blog. Each day, a new item popped up, and you could click behind it and find out a bit about the resource. An example of what one page would look like: Open Grey, a grey literature resource introducing users to non-sort of published material and a repository that they could search for that kind of content. The reason why I picked WordPress was because you could schedule posts in advance. So I was not going to have to be posting things on the 24th of December at 8 a.m. Posted all the content in advance and set it to open each day at 8 a.m. from the 1st to the 24th of December. And they followed a set order, the kind of process that a researcher would follow from conceiving of their systematic review right through to gathering data, writing up, screening, disseminating the research, and each time linking back to any further support that we could do. So they followed that structure and methodological process. Obviously, at the end of the 24 days, each resource is still live, it's still there, it's linked to on our website. So although we used the sort of Christmas period to do this as a sort of thematic way to link it in, the content is all there, it's going to be always usable and obviously updated if things change in particular with relation to particular resources. And it proved very popular. Not sure how many of you run Twitter accounts for your individual faculty libraries. 37 retweets and 44 likes might not seem like a lot, but in terms of user engagement, this is very high for a small faculty library. And we were getting engagement from the particular sorts of groups that we would want to see it from. Prisma is the governing body who set the guidance in terms of what content should be reported in a systematic review. It's been put together by people who are involved in editing journals, reviewing systematic reviews and publishing them. So getting their retweet was great. Addenbrooke's hospital research team also retweeted it, and obviously a lot of other librarians, researchers and so on in the field. And in terms of actually clicking through and looking at the website, pretty much every day we were getting several hundreds of hits. They were coming from all over the world, so they weren't necessarily all coming from researchers at Cambridge. So we were getting engagement, a lot from Ireland, a lot from India, China, places like that. After the UK, those were the highest numbers from various countries. If you want to implement something like this, these are my top tips. If you want images, Pixabay is a great place to get them from. Free images with CC0 licenses. Write the content in advance. Automate it as much as possible. Use a platform that's going to automate that. And obviously, register for the platforms you're using with a shared library address so that if you leave your post, other colleagues can pick up and use it where you left off. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. One thing I forgot to say at the beginning is we will be having Q&As at the end after everyone has had a chance to speak, so do make notes, and I'm sure everyone will be happy to answer questions about their projects as we go forward. But thank you, Veronica, for that. I am switched on. Apparently. So people keep telling me, but anyway. Brilliant. Next up, it's my great pleasure to welcome Claire Trowell and Simon Frost from the Marshall Library, who are going to be talking to us about Jasper.
Thank you. Right, hello, so I'm Claire Trowell, I'm the Marshall Librarian, and this is Simon Frost, who's Deputy Librarian at Marshall. And this is #Jasper, the economics cat. We thought that we needed to engage the students more with the library through social media, so we hit on the idea of having a cat for our tweets and Facebook, a sort of lol cat.
So I rather foolishly volunteered Jasper to come in and provide the model for the photo shoot. Jasper himself is an 8-year-old ginger Tom who's very friendly, he's very approachable, he likes lots of attention, but even though he's had rather a hard life, he lost his leg when he was quite young in a car accident, and then he was abandoned by his original family. Then he ended up at Ely Cats Protection, where he was there for a long time because people didn't like the fact he only had 3 legs. But then I found him in November 2015, took him home, and the rest, as they say, is history.
And so, we use the photos of Jasper on Twitter and at the open days, and we also use them in inductions for the economics students and the development studies students.
And after using them in the inductions, for the whole of Michaelmas term that year, we had students coming in, asking at the issue desk, when's Jasper coming in next? When can we see Jasper?
So we caved in and we organised Tea with Jasper. I have to say, I did do a Tea with the Librarian event, and I had 1 student over a period. We organised Tea with Jasper using social media and Eventbrite to promote it. And we had to do a risk assessment because we had to make sure people who were allergic to cats were aware and all of that sort of thing. And we did all of that stuff properly. And then the tickets sold out in 2 hours.
Okay, and of course there was a serious point to this. We wanted to try to engage with the students, try and get feedback from them. So Claire, using her amazing artistic abilities, made a carbon copy of Jasper out of cardboard. And we tried to get students give us feedback about library services, about what they thought of the library, but most of the sessions were about how much they liked cats.
Although we do want to point out that we are the best library in Cambridge. We did start. It was at this point I realised what being in economics meant as a black market started up on Facebook. And at this point I started to panic. I didn't make the mistake of Anthony Brereton in the previous talk where they had a queue around the library. I did have tickets. I still didn't quite know how we were going to manage it. Obviously the tickets could sell out, but I couldn't stop people coming in the library. So I thought, oh. So we did decide to manage the queue. We put him in a separate room, and we thought then Jasper wouldn't get overwhelmed. To be honest, we weren't at all sure how he was going to react.
Okay, to cut a long story short, the event was extremely popular and very successful, and Tamsin Starr from the University Press and Publicity Office came in because she's a great cat lover. She took that photograph. She then mentioned it to a colleague who works for the BBC. They picked it up and ran the story, and then it snowballed from that point on.
So by Easter, which was only a few days after this, maybe a week, we were fielding calls from journalists. I remember one on Hemmingford Meadow on Good Friday. I was walking along and suddenly my phone went off because there's not much mobile signal where I live, and I had to go out to the meadow and suddenly my phone went crazy. Jasper was all over the papers and various media websites. Although the journalists seemed an awful lot to be awfully obsessed with the fact he'd only got 3 legs, like it was some sort of freak show, and this wasn't really relevant.
So Jasper became an international star. There were press reports relating to him from Canada to India. He even made it to the Hyderabad Times, believe it or not. The press in Beijing picked it up as well. And here are some of the photographs of his well-being visits with students. He was extremely popular. I should point out it's not just economic students. We had a wide range of disciplines from a wide variety of subjects, and we even had 2 people that were allergic to cats who wanted to come in, wanted to stroke Jasper, even though they were sneezing and there was tears coming out of their eyes. They still wanted to meet Jasper.
He came at Christmas. He even switched on our Christmas lights, and this is what the students have to say about him. Thank you, Jasper, for bringing happiness and well-being to the Marshall Library.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I pity whoever's got to follow it. But no. Now for our next lightning talk, I'd like to welcome Catherine Crick and Charlotte Hoare from Christ College Library, who are going to talk to us about the old library.
Hello. We're here to give you a quick introduction to the efforts we've been making at Christ College to break through to our old library in order to open up access both to the space itself and the 50,000 rare books, manuscripts and objects that it houses. As yet, we haven't had to knock down any physical walls, luckily, but over the last 5 or so years, we've taken steps to identify and address a number of barriers that can prevent various audiences from engaging with special collections. I'm going to talk briefly about breaking through from the inside and engaging the college community, and then Catherine will speak about reaching out to wider academic and public audiences. So, in 2013, the old library at Christ was opened up to the public regularly for the first time, with a programme of 2 large-scale exhibitions a year, open 2 afternoons a week to the public for free. As part of this scheme, we had improved power and network outlets installed and improved promotion and signage to raise awareness of this increased access. And we typically have about 44,000 visitors a year. So that's a bit of background. I want to highlight some ways we've built on this foundation to raise the profile of the library within the college community itself. First of all, with the students, our old library is just across the corridor from our working library, but it can seem like an intimidating space, especially to undergraduate students. We're making efforts to try and bridge the gap between the two libraries, introducing initiatives like the Old Library Treasure of the Month, where we literally wheel out a highlight from our special collections into the working library, so students can take a look at it as and when it suits them in a space that they are more comfortable with. We've also integrated a brief introduction to the Old Library into our inductions for new students at the beginning of the academic year, so they can familiarise themselves with the space from the get-go. We are keen to integrate our special collections into undergraduate teaching further, and we've made a start by offering tours of our exhibitions to particular subject groups. So, for example, we had a Theatre of Plants exhibition, which was about the history of botany, and we offered a dedicated tour for students studying the history and philosophy of science. Another key audience for us is the fellowship and the wider college staff. A particularly effective strategy for us has been to involve fellows and staff in library exhibitions, so from co-curating exhibitions with college fellows to working with the college gardeners in our Theatre of Plants exhibition. This works really well to give a sense of a college-wide event rather than an isolated library event. Keeping people updated is important as well. We send out bulletins advertising our monthly Treasures blog post, and we take opportunities to embed displays of special collection material into pre-existing college events as well. So finally, we find it really important to work closely with other college departments as well, which encourages joined-up thinking and sharing expertise across the college. So we work with the admissions department very closely for our school outreach sessions in the Old Library, and we work very closely with the development office for alumni communications about the Old Library and fundraising initiatives as well.
Another key idea behind breaking through to our old library has been to develop an online presence so we can engage with outside users by improving our visibility in online catalogs through digitization efforts and on social media. Regarding our cataloging, of our 50,000 rare book and special collection items, only about 40% have been cataloged to date. So we are hoping to increase our cataloging rate so our collections will be viewable in iDiscover and encourage Cambridge-based researchers to increase their use of our materials. We are also reviewing the information that the English short title catalog records for our collection so that researchers consulting such a valuable resource can more easily request to view our early printed material and see our Treasures blog for more about that. In making our collections more visible, we've also started digitizing a number of our rare books. Initially, our digitization efforts were done in-house and posted to our website via issue as uploaded PDFs. Consequently, we have not been following good digital preservation practice. So now we're working with the digital content unit of the University Library to digitize our books, and in the hopes of having them hosted on the Cambridge Digital Library, so look out for that. We also believe in the Vice-Chancellor's idea that we are but a part of a wider community. So to that end, we've been using social media to engage with the wider public, not just our students and alumni, but also members of the Cambridge community and visitors from abroad. For us, the idea of increasing engagement is what underpins all of our tweets, Facebook, and Instagram posts, and our participation in events like the Cambridge Science Festival and Open Cambridge. We've been increasing our presence on social media, which has led to increases in our followers, and we hope will lead to, in turn, to an increase in our visitors in person. We're also combining our efforts to break through from the inside and outside simultaneously. Our forthcoming exhibition, Liberty in Print, launching on the 24th of January, is being curated by one of our fellows, while also providing the impetus for us to digitize our copy of John Locke's 2 Treatises of Government, which contains annotations by Locke himself, for interactive display on a tablet in conjunction with the original. So how can we continue to break down that barrier between our old library and the rest of the world? We see this as a continuing process of engaging with the various audiences who currently use our materials, follow our pages, and attend our exhibitions. We plan to continue to gather feedback and be reflective about it. And if any of you have ideas about what we can do to improve our engagement, either within our college and with others outside of it, please do get in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another fascinating talk. The final part of the first half, I think that makes sense, of our lightning talks today. It's my pleasure to welcome Hannah Smith, who's going to be talking to us about new professionals.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Great. You start my timer. So my name's Hannah Smith. I'm the graduate trainee at Queen's, as you can see, and today I'm going to be speaking about laying foundations for sustainable careers in the face of the digital revolution. I should say that I'm speaking today not as a self-professed expert in this field, but as an invested new professional. I know that there are a lot of new professionals here today, including some library school students, but I know that this is a concern for all of us. So my hope is that this short talk is just the start of a conversation that we can continue here today, that we can continue down the pub later, on Twitter too, and you can find me tweeting at Han in the library, and also relating to this talk using the hashtag FutureProofLibrarians. So this cartoon just about sums up my instinctive feelings about the future, if I'm honest. Automation, the shift from print to digital, open access, academic libraries and librarianship are changing. The digital revolution is altering the trajectory of our careers more drastically than ever before, and it's by turns thrilling and terrifying. The Future of Skills Employment in 2030 research project, which was conducted last year by Pearson, had this to say: we'll still need people, librarians, to help us navigate information both old and new. But like many occupations, the skills profile of a librarian is likely to shift substantially in the years ahead. We've entered the uncomfortable phase of the transition into a digital society. And it's uncomfortable because in these teenage years, we're caught between the old world and the new one, attempting to maintain the old systems while we create new ones for the future. Our jobs and our skills have to change accordingly, and this can leave us feeling, like Bilbo Baggins says, like butter scraped over too much bread. So how can we negotiate this awkward transition and ensure that our careers are adaptable and sustainable? Now, I have to confess here to being a little bit of a hipster in one regard only, I hope, which is that I love my vinyl record collection. In a few years, anyone with a CD collection is going to be a bit of a hipster too, I think, so I console myself with that thought. But I do maintain that physical media adds to the sound and the experience of listening to music. So some of you might roll your eyes, but I bet you still like print books, don't you? But it seems that the market agrees with me. In the UK, in 2016, UK vinyl sales rose by 53%, and they're still rising. Technological advances have a wonderful way of separating the wheat from the chaff. The digital revolution at its best reacts to our new needs without needlessly getting rid of objects and tools and professions of value. In our roles, we can expect to see processes streamlined, services expanded or becoming more specialized, but the things of value will remain. Again, the Future of Skills report concludes that skills will be at least as important as knowledge, in fact, in the UK, probably more important. And that the most valuable skills associated with rising professions, like ours as information professionals, will be judgment, decision-making, and the fluency of ideas. That is, human skills that can't be automated. Our daily processes are guaranteed to change. It's these human qualities that are the things of value that are guaranteed to remain. We all know the importance of ongoing professional development, but how can we ensure that we continue to develop these irreplaceable skills as well as our knowledge? There are more than 100 libraries in the University of Cambridge. Our work is diverse, so are our skills. With Alma, with FutureLib, Cambridge Digital Library, countless other ways, we're already embracing the new technology that can broaden and improve our services. This diversity is the answer to the question of professional development. We can future-proof our careers and be better librarians than ever before if we tap into this resource. But how? We can ask for the tour. What I mean by that is, let's talk to the people in roles that are unfamiliar to us, and let's ask them what they really do, day to day. When we ask them for the tour, when we find out about their job and their context, we'll understand their challenges and strategies and their jargon. Not only will we broaden our networks and increase our odds of being able to move laterally in our careers should we need or want to, we will broaden our understanding of the impact of the digital revolution and discover a wealth of models for making the most of it. So to conclude, in this new world of endless information and I really hate to use this phrase, but I have to, fake news, trusted information managers are more valuable than ever before. I have faith, and so do the many people that continue to start careers as librarians, that academic libraries will last, even if the details of our roles change. This transition is uncomfortable, and we're reminded of that today, perhaps more than ever, as we wait for new technology. But as the remarkable ALMA implementation team have shown us, and they really are remarkable, change can bring out the best in our workforce. And that's why the single best thing that I can do to ensure that I have a sustainable career is to listen to your answers to this question: how are you going to do it? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Wow. It's all I say that every year after the lightning talks, because it really highlights the diverse range of experience and skills that we have amongst our community. So just before we start the Q&A, please could you join me in thanking all of our lightning talk speakers. So we now have time for some questions. If anyone out there has anything they would like to ask any of our speakers, please do wait for the mic to get you. Throw up your hands now. Go on.
I've got one.
Go on. Martin, yes.
To Claire and Simon, will Jasper be making repeat performances?
He already has. He's been twice or 3 times now?
3 times.
3 times. 3 times. And each time, it was probably not, it was sort of almost queuing around the block the first time. But now it's almost an expectation, so we're aware we have to timetable him in. Yeah.
So I'd like to pick up on the last talk, but ask a question to everybody, because I think it does relate to all of us. Hannah posed us a question about our digital skills and how we get there. How can we help our community gain those digital skills and the confidence we need to go forward? Or you?
Would everyone like to just move to the side?
We're trying to get to Brad.
It was something I said.
Oh, I've got a microphone, haven't I? Well, my starting point for learning these digital skills, because I'm a graduate trainee, and the next thing to do is to study, is to go and study and to look for courses where I can really dig into digital skills and the foundations of that. I think some people can come to librarianship, particularly at this time, with technology and knowledge about technology and digital skills already there, and that's how they enter. Perhaps people that they're not doing graduate traineeships, they're maybe finding their own way. And I think perhaps those people in some ways have an advantage. My knowledge of the foundations of this stuff is fairly poor, and that's why I'm thinking about it and I'm concerned about it. So the next thing for me to do is go and study, but also to pick all of your brains.
And space and support to learn for staff at all levels, at all stages of their career, all levels of seniority, and space to be allowed to say, I don't know, this is difficult, please can I get the tools to learn this thing?
I'd say that there are various themes. So, for example, open access over the last few years, which was mentioned earlier on by somebody, has become a big theme. So I think I would focus on particular themes and think about the technology to support that, or the talk about special collections, so the digitisation, preservation issues. Think about technology in the context of certain things rather than thinking it's such a huge area, whatever area of librarianship we're in, we're going to have to learn technical skills. So there'll always be an expert in an area and somebody you can go and talk to. So that's how I'd approach it.
Well, I'm more of a cat man really myself, so I haven't really given it that much thought, so I'll pass you on to my colleague next to me.
I think for my part, it's just about asking questions. So you see something, okay, what can I find out about that? Who can I ask to find out more about that from? And some of it's just sort of, Googling and saying, okay, I need to do this sort of thing in the library, and I don't know how to do it. Nobody else on the team knows how to do it. Google.
Yeah, I think I'll pick up on two things that people have already said, which is acknowledging the challenge, acknowledging that it is a challenge, accepting that there are things that are scary about it, accepting that it's going to mean changes in how you perceive yourself and your role and your day-to-day work as well. But also seeing it in the light of your day-to-day work, how it can improve the specific things you're doing, so tailoring it to your particular task within the profession as well.
Brilliant. Good question. Fantastic answers. Thank you very much. Does anybody else have one last question? Oh, up at the back. Martin, you.
No cheering.
If we could have another one down the front ready, that would be...
Have a microphone. Oh, hi everyone.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask a question about the Advent calendars. So they're still up. Is there anything remaining with them that still brands them as Advent calendars? I'm just thinking it's sort of the issue of will people continue engaging with them? Is there something that sort of dates it as this was originally put up as part of a specific thing?
Do you mean in terms of the content or in terms of the fact that it was at Advent that it was put up?
I mean in terms of the content. Is there anything that still identifies it as that, or is it these days just a generic resource?
It still is an Advent calendar. I would be open to kind of changing it and so on. And we also have plans to do sort of other versions of this, you know, something in the summer just before the students are coming back. What sort of key pieces of tools do you need to put in your bag to bring back to university? Easter egg hunt for, you know, resources, that kind of thing. So there are all sorts of sort of times of the year that you can structure it. In terms of sort of transporting the content to something more generic, that is something that we could possibly do. At the moment, it is just sitting up there as an Advent calendar.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for those wonderful answers. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. That brings to an end the first part of our lightning talk session. We'll be moving now to your various rooms for the second round of parallel talks. But before we go, thank you once again to all our speakers for the first part of this afternoon.